Hello fellow YouTubers, this is Bill McFadden from Tone Pure Music, and in this video we're going to continue with part 2 of the tutorial on the 23 brass libraries, and they're actually organic brass libraries as opposed to synthetic. So first off, we'll go ahead and correct an error I made in the first one. I guess I had the Metro One turned on while I was playing the Berlin brass. So we were getting a combination of both libraries. So let's just hear Berlin brass isolated. So there we have it, isolated by itself. Now, last time we looked at all of these libraries playing the same fanfare for a common man. So let's go ahead and look at some of the individual brass patches in the specific libraries. And we'll go ahead and start with brass ensemble. So the first patch that I have up here, which we didn't use, is the Brass Ensemble Essential patch. And the keyboard is divided up into areas for your tubas, and also then you get in your trombones. Now we're into the horns. Now we're into trumpets. And there's a key switch at C1 that gives you the sustain patch. So there it is in the tuba. So here we have in the trombones and the horns and the trumpets. So the second key switch they have is a staccato. And that's for all the groups of instruments. And then after staccato, they have a decrescendo. Which is a nice decrescendo that you probably won't find in many other libraries. And then they have a sforzando, which has sort of a slow progress initially, which is different than a lot of other sforzando. So depending what you're going for, it could be a useful patch. And then they have the crescendo. And the swell. So with the swell, you see the decrescendo after the initial crescendo. And then they have a bass or blast, triple forte. And then for this particular general one, they have staccato velocity. And you have the dynamics control Your mod wheel does dynamics control. Okay, so, and they had the same. Let's go to the next one. This is just the horns that we looked at in the cue. Actually, that's the trumpets. And then you go through your articulations. You have the sustain. And then the double tongue. That's a new one. And then they have the trill semitone, or your minor trill. And then a staccato triple tongue. And then sforzando, as we saw in the general library, as well as swell. And the last one they have is sforzando. Actually, sorry, it's blast. Hit the wrong key switch. And then the next brass patch is the horns. So that's the sustain patch. Then we have the single tongue. And triple tongue, semitone. Oh, sorry, trill. And the staccato, and you can see the round robins right there. There's 2, 4, 6, 8 of them all together. Then they have a staccato stop mute, which is different than. And just regular staccato. With the rate levels around robin, as well as staccato stop mute. So very unusual and unique patches that you won't find in most other libraries, and they do have this sforzando again, as well as a swell. And the blast. And you do have to wait for that to taper off. So, and the next one we have in the lineup, Trombones Essentials. That's a swell patch. Here's your sustain. Then you have your sustain mute. And triple tongue, it looks like. Oh, actually, it's trill tongue. Staccato. And staccato triple tongue. As well as sforzando. And your swell. which tapers off nicely. And your blast triple forte, which again you have to wait for before you want to play another note. Or you could play the chord. And we have, here's the last one in the essentials. The Tuba's essentials. Right now it's on sustain, and we have decrescendo, as well as a sustained trill, and staccato. And then we have the blast short. And sforzando. And those are the range of the articulations for that patch. So moving along, let's take a look at Metro. So we're looking at the brass patches in Metro. So first of all, we see we have trumpets and the horns, which we used in the cue. Also, we have 3 horns, and we have bass trombones and sustains, cymbassi, and tubas. Okay, so there are your trumpets. And there are the horns. All 9. Whoops, we have 9 and 3 planks. That'd be 12. So here's just the 3. Here's your bass trombones, 3 of them. All the way down to C1. So now we have the cymbassi, 3 of them. Also down to C1. Now the tubas. So on Metro 2, the first patch we'll look at, I believe, is the trumpets. So we're looking at them individually. Well, actually, in this cue, we didn't have the normal trumpets, the B-flat trumpets. So we do have the bass trumpets, but we used in the cue the flugelhorns instead. So here are your flugelhorns. So it's a unique patch. Not too many libraries have flugelhorns. And you do have a lot of different articulations. You have your sustain legato. Okay, you can just play one note at a time. And then you have your staccato. Whoops, let's see. There we go. And you have your long swell. Short swell. Now, I believe I did do a tutorial on Metro 2, which covered most of this stuff. So we'll just briefly look at what we've got. So if you want to get more in depth on Metro 2, I have a dedicated video for that. And then here are the trumpets. Bass trumpets. Whoops. And they have those different articulations, but again, you can get into, well, I guess we could do staccato. Why don't we go ahead? Here's staccato. Then you have your long swell, as well as your short. And then you have 3 euphoniums. Again, that's not a common instrument to have in brass libraries. There's your legato, your staccato. And your long swell. And it does taper off nicely. Here's your short one. Now we have the tubas. This is the legato patch. Wagner tubas. Sustains. Staccatos. And your swells. Short swell. Marcato long. Marcato short. Then we have one more, the ring tubas, 3 of them. And these go much lower than the Wagner tubas, all the way down to C1, even B0, B flat 0. Then you have your staccato, your long swell, short swell, and then you have multiphonics. as well as flutter swell. And flutter swell. I guess short. Here it's longer. So those are the patches we have in Metro 2. In Metro 2. Now in Metro 3, we have a lot of special effects brass. Not too much of your normal stuff. Okay, so let's take a look. Let's take a look at the 2 patches that we have in Metro 3 that could add to your brass library. First one is brass orchestra clusters. Now we did take a look at this in the Metro 3 tutorial, so I'll just go over a few of them. So that's half note down. Staccatissimo cluster. And here we have an upbeat single, upbeat triple, forte cluster. I'm just hitting one note, then you're half note down. Actually, I sort of hate to see people have to go to another video when it's right here. So there's a staccato cluster. And here we have an upbeat single. I'll just go through them quickly. And then upbeat triple cluster. And fortissimo cluster. And then the next instrument that we have in Metro 3 is the brass orchestra, where we have the first one was clusters, and this one is clusters with repetition. So first one is the repetition half note. Then we have quarter note repetition. Then quarter note triplet. Eighth note. And then that was eighth note triplets, and then we have 16th notes. So they get faster as you go from left to right. So that's it for Metro 3 brass patches. In the other video on Metro 3, I went through all the patches. Okay, there are like 3 parts. Okay. So let's take a look. Let's take a look at Inspire. Okay, we have a few patches. Again, Inspire is really a sketching library. So here we have the brass whole ensemble, which is the patch I used in the demo, because I didn't have individual, well, there is a trumpets and horns patch that might have worked, probably would have worked, but I just used the whole ensemble patch. So you have your sustain, you have your sustain short, you have staccato and marcato. And then the next brass patch you have in Inspire is brass muted. So not too many libraries offer muted brass. So it goes down to C, or actually E flat 1. And then we have trumpets and horns, 8 VA. Staccato. As well as marcato. So that's the trumpets and horns AVA. Then we have the tubas and trombones AVA. So that's a sustain patch. Then you have staccato. Actually, staccatissimo. And then marcato. So, being orchestral tools, they do have really high quality sound. And then we have a couple of more from the Spire package that actually you have a solo horn. As well as staccato. And the last one we have is solo trumpet, which is the brass, another brass. Sustain. You can hear the reverb on that one. And then staccato. And next we have symphonic brass. And we did use the trumpet, the A6 patch. Then we have the horn patch, which we also used. Now, Spitfire Symphonic Brass has an amazing number of different patches. I just primarily use the ensemble patches to compare to the other ensemble packages in the other libraries. We can't do all the patches in all the libraries. That would take hours and hours. So there's your trumpets, or your French horns. And here's your trombones, 6 of those. Yeah, I'd say the Spitfire Symphonic Brass, as well as the Orchestral Tools Brass, are probably my 2 go-to libraries for brass, although I do use the other ones on occasion. Here we have two cymbassi. There's your long patch. And I did do a comprehensive tutorial on the Spitfire brass. So instead of going through all these patches, which would take quite a while, trying to keep these videos reasonably short, just to give you an idea. So if you need more detail, you can go to the Spitfire brass library in-depth tutorial. And then the next one we have is Orchestral Tools Berlin Brass, another comprehensive brass library. And what I did here is primarily the ensemble patches as well, to compare them with the other libraries that only have ensemble, or at least the ones I have only have ensemble patches. So so here's the ensemble patch. It's actually, it sounds just more like trumpets. Yeah, that's the trumpet ensemble patch. And again, we have lots of articulations for each of these multis, but we'll just go ahead and do this, keep it to the sustain here, since I do have a tutorial also comprehensive on Berlin brass. And if you can find it, or if possibly I thought I had one and didn't, let me know. By the way, thank you, subscribers, for pointing out that I had the Metro One and the Berlin simultaneously engaged when we went through the queue. So there's our trumpets. So here's our French horns. And then so from the French horns, we have the trombones. Which we heard in the queue, but we heard them together with the trumpets. So this way you hear them. You hear them individually with this one. And then our tubas. And with most of these libraries, the mod wheel is used for expression and or volume, dynamics in general. So there we have it, and then there's Albion One. So with Albion One, there were 3 patches, basically high brass, mid brass, and low brass. And here's what they sound like individually. And they do have several articulations as well. So there we have the high brass, and Albion is put out by Spitfire, so you do have really nice sounding samples. That's so the mid brass go to E3. Sorry, the high brass went to E3. So here's your mid brass. So they're going all the way down to C2. Your upper range is C5 for the mid brass. And then with our low brass, so let's do one short patch, just to say we did. Actually, because I didn't do a tutorial on Albion One brass, maybe I'll go through these. So there's Long Nasty. So there we have the array of patches. And they're pretty much the same in the other ones as well. So if you like this video, please click like. The next video will be coming out with shortly will be the next group of brass. We'll have 8 more other brass libraries playing the cue. And then we'll also get into details on those individual libraries to help you decide if you want to incorporate them into your collection. So if you wish to subscribe, please subscribe and you'll be notified of videos as soon as they come out. You won't miss any. And I guess that's it for this video. This is Bill McFadden from Tone Pure Music signing off.